I'm Cath and this is made by Cath Craft. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you're a regular viewer. It's really lovely to have you here. And today I've got a bit of a mix in this video. I've got lots of different sewing projects that I want to talk about. A couple that I've been working on over the last week and a couple that I've got planned. So yeah, I've got a few different patterns here that I wanted to chat about and some fabrics and different things to share. So thank you very much for joining me. So I'll start off the video as ever with what I'm wearing today for my handmade wardrobe. And today here in the south of England, well, you wouldn't guess it was summer here right now. We've had a very rainy week. Today it isn't actually raining, but it's still very cloudy and not particularly warm. But I thought I'd put a dress on anyway. And actually this dress works really well for this in-betweeny sort of weather because it's made of double gauze, which I think can be quite a cozy fabric. And it's quite an old dress actually, but I always enjoy getting this one out. And I made it using this pattern here, the Plum Dress by Crafts, which is a woven dress pattern for this fairly oversized baby doll style dress, and with a gathered skirt and a button down back bodice. And you can either make a more wintry version with a longer sleeve, or I've got the more summery version on with this little ruffle added on to like a dropped shoulder type sleeve. It sews up really nicely. I do enjoy sewing up patterns by Crafts. And yeah, I love my plum dress. I made it in this quite bright royal blue double gauze fabric, and I had a bit of fun with the buttons on the back. I'll turn around so you can see I went for hot pink buttons to kind of pop against the blue. Hopefully you could see them okay. And as you might have been able to see as well, I also added in a little waist tie to cinch this dress in a little bit, because the pattern is quite a loose fit, oversized pattern. And I think I do remember sizing down a size already because I didn't want to feel like it was wearing me. And I thought it might in this kind of bright blue colour if there was too much fabric. And you can make it in two different lengths, like a sort of more, this one might be just below the knee and this one's a bit more of a mini length. And I, in the end, made mine to come down to about my knee. So it's a bit longer than some other shorter dresses. But yeah, I really love it actually. It's really comfy to wear and quite breezy. And I love the feature of the ruffle. I think it's really cute. And I think with the double gauze, because it's got a bit of body to it, you can really see that ruffle really well. I did make one other version of the Crafts plum dress. This was my first version I made. I did go on to make one other version in a viscose fabric. And I must admit, I didn't like it half as much. I think it was a busier fabric with a floral print, which I kind of think sort of meant you kind of lost the features of the dress. But also I think because it was such a drapey fabric, again, it didn't really showcase the nice little cute ruffles on the sleeve. So I ended up refashioning that one. But yeah, I do love wearing this one. And I'll put a picture up so you can see the full dress. How I've been wearing it this morning. I went out in the school one, just a pair of trainers on wearing it. So yes, that's what I'm wearing today. And I will link the plum dress pattern down below. And I'm also able to link this fabric down below too, even though I bought it and made this dress, I think at least a couple of years ago. I got this double gauze originally from Minerva, and I had to look on the website and it is still available. I think because it's one of their Minerva core range fabrics, which I believe they always try to keep available and they will restock. And this double gauze comes in quite a few different colours. It's an 100% cotton double gauze. It's lovely and soft, and I just think this blue colour is really pretty. I do like quite a bold blue colour. And I can't remember exactly what this shade of blue was called, but I'll pop the details of it down below along with the link. It's a really nice, soft, comfy fabric to wear. I do keep thinking to myself, I'd really like to get some more double gauze and try making myself some double gauze pyjamas, because I've seen quite a few people talking about how much they love their handmade double gauze pyjamas and how comfy they are. And I often would generally wear like a jersey sort of t-shirt in bed and then like a woven pair of pyjama bottoms, but usually in like a cotton poplin or a lawn. So I've never tried double gauze, but I think it is so lovely and soft. I think it'll be and so breathable too, I guess. I think it'll be perfect for a pair of pyjamas. So there's definitely on my list of things to sew with double gauze at some point in the future. But anyway, I'm digressing a little bit. So I'll finish off with what I'm wearing now and move on to what I've been sewing over the last week or so. And the first thing that I wanted to update you guys on is, if you watched my last week's video, you'll know this weekend just gone, I was due to be going to a friend's house for a bit of a social sewing session. We both wanted to work on a particular project and drink some tea and chat and just enjoy sewing together, which we hadn't done for absolutely ages. So yeah, I was really looking forward to it, and I had a project all cut out and ready to go. But unfortunately, my friend was poorly, so we had to cancel the session at last minute, which was a real shame. We did agree we'll have to get another session in the diary at some point in the not too distant future, but it did mean I wasn't able to progress my project that I was hoping to work on. And the project I was hoping to work on was to try out quite a new pattern, the Fleur blouse and dress pattern by Fabric Godmother. I was going to try this version here for my first version. I thought it'd be a good starter before I bought enough fabric maybe to go for a dress, to see if I liked it, because it's a bit different to my normal style. So unfortunately, I didn't get anything done on that project, and yeah, I was really looking forward to that one. I'll link my last week's video up above in case you want to see all the details of what fabric I'm planning to use for my Fleur blouse. But yes, that is one I'm hopefully going to work on a little bit over the next few days. So hopefully in a video very soon, I'll be able to update you on that one. But I thought I'd mention it in case you were looking forward to seeing my progress on my Fleur. Unfortunately, there has been none. But I have been doing some other sewing over the last few days. So I've got some other things to share instead. I have been working on one secret project that I can't share quite yet. But that's definitely in the pipeline, and I'll be sharing it with you soon. But one thing I have been working on this week is actually something for my mum. And it's been a bit different actually, because I've been adapting a pattern to try and replicate a piece of ready-to-wear clothing that she wanted to recreate. So my mum is quite tall, and she struggles to find trousers that sort of fit around the waist and also the length. I guess like a lot of people do, but particularly for her it's the height. And she has this pair of trousers that are quite old now that she's just fit her just right, and that she really loves. And they're kind of like a sort of summery, almost like a summery jogging bottom, but a bit smarter than that. And they're made out of viscose jersey, so they've got a lovely drape to them and quite nice and lightweight for summer. I'll put a picture up so you can see what they look like. And she asked me if I could maybe have a go of recreating them. So I was a bit nervous about this because it's obviously a little bit different than just creating a pattern straight from the pattern envelope. But I have made her some Hudson pants before by True Bias, and we agreed that that might be a good starting point for a pattern to kind of try and replicate these trousers. They have an elasticated waistband, and I'll put a couple of close-ups in. They've got quite similar sort of curved pockets to the Hudson pants. They do have a little pleat at the front, but we thought the pleat wasn't necessary. If we kind of used an elasticated waist and gathered in, you'd have a bit of gathering instead, and that would create a similar effect rather than having to replicate the little pleat on these trousers. So yes, that's what the plan was. So first of all, I had a look online to try and find some fairly reasonably priced viscose jersey fabrics as options for her to choose from. I sent her a few options and she found one she liked from First for Fabrics. And I bought fabrics for my mum from First for Fabrics before because I think they are always really good quality but also really reasonably priced. So the viscose jersey fabric she chose is really lovely actually. It is this one here. I think it's still in stock on the First for Fabrics website. I think it's around £10 per metre. I'll link it down below. I think it was called Blue Petals or something along those lines, but it's got this pretty blue background and then these little white patches. It's quite a summery fabric, I think, because of all the white, and quite nice for a trouser and not too dissimilar to the ones she had before in terms of style, even though that was sort of black and white and a bit more leopard printy. I thought this is sort of similar scale of print maybe and things. So I ordered the fabric. I ordered 2 metres. I thought I could probably squeeze the trousers out of 1.5 metres, but I ordered 2 metres just to be on the safe side because I was kind of relying on the 1.5 metres to be able to cut all the legs next to each other along. But I thought actually if there wasn't quite enough width there, I might have to sort of stagger them slightly and then I would maybe squeeze into the 2 metres. So anyway, I managed to squeeze them out of the 1.5 metres in the end. So I know for next time I only need to order 1.5. But here are the trousers that I've made. They're not quite finished. I need to just sort of stitch the waistband down. As you can see, there's elasticated waist and I need to kind of add a couple of lines of stitching on there to finish it off. But yeah, these are the trousers here. I'll stand back a bit so you can see the full trouser length. So hopefully you can see they do look quite similar, I think, to the original ready-to-wear pair that my mum had. So they've got the little, I've added little pockets here. You can see the curved pockets. I did add in the pocket detail that the Hudson pants have, which is a little extra detail there, which the ready-to-wear pair didn't have, because my mum said she quite likes that little detail. And I think it does on a jersey fabric as well, stop the pockets from stretching out as much, because the fabric's it's almost cut on the ribbing way. So I think it does give it a little bit more support there to keep it from bagging out too much around there. And then the main changes I made from the Hudson pants pattern is I omitted the cuff at the bottom, the ankle cuff, just made it like a straight leg trouser that kind of tapers in, as the Hudson pants do. But I did widen the legs on the Hudson pants slightly, because I do find the Hudson pants have a very slim fit leg, which in a thicker fabric can sometimes almost feel a bit more like a legging. It's so sort of slim fit. I knew for these trousers, my mum didn't want them to be too slim fit, where the viscose would maybe like cling around her legs or anything. So I just widened the trousers pattern pieces down the sides just a little bit to give a little bit more room there. And the other thing I always do for my mum is she prefers a higher waist, and the Hudson pants are like a mid-rise. So I basically just added a bit of extra length around here in the crotch to bring the pattern piece up a little bit, to bring it up more to her natural waist. So yeah, it was a fun project. I was actually really nervous cutting into this fabric. I did in the end say to my mum, do you mind if I just pop to your house and grab the ready-to-wear pair, just so I can have one last check of the ready-to-wear pair to the pattern pieces before I cut into the fabric, because I didn't want to risk cutting in and maybe them ending up being too short or too slim fit. But yeah, once I cut into the fabric, they were really quick to sew up. I feel like I've sewn up the true bias Hudson pants so many times, they always come together quite quickly. And obviously there was a bit less to do because I didn't have to add the ankle cuffs on. I've just hemmed using a zigzag stitch at the bottom. So yeah, I'm really pleased with how they've turned out, and I popped over to my mum's house yesterday for her to try them on, and she was really happy with them. So I'm really glad actually, because it was a bit nerve-wracking, I think. Particularly with trousers, I feel like the fit's more critical, and I know that it's jersey fabric, so it's not like a fitted pair of trousers, but also I really wanted to be able to make something my mum really loved that is really similar to her older pair. So yeah, I'm really happy with how they've come out. And it was really nice fabric to work with. My mum was really pleased with the fabric. It's got a lovely drape to it, and it's not too thin, so it's perfect for a pair of trousers. Yeah, so that is what I've been making for my mum. And then because I only needed the 1.5 meters for these trousers for my mum, I thought what I'd do was use the leftover fabric to squeeze out a top for her too. So yeah, I had just enough fabric to make this little t-shirt here, which I think is really cute. I don't think she'd probably wear it with the trousers. I guess it would create a faux jumpsuit, but it might look a bit too much like pajamas maybe. But I thought it'd be nice, with other garments in her wardrobe instead, even just with a pair of jeans or a pair of trousers. So I made this t-shirt here, and I made it using a lovely free pattern that I really love, that I've talked about quite a few times before, the Celanti pattern by French Navy. I'll link this pattern down below. It's a great free pattern. It's also now available in the extended size range. So yeah, size inclusive too. And it's just a really nice, fairly relaxed fit t-shirt with a slight dropped shoulder, and a curved hem. So you can see the curved hem here, I think, hopefully, at the bottom. It's got quite a subtly curved hem. It comes together really nicely, and I think this t-shirt looks really nice in a drapey fabric. And I often like when I make Celanti, I often like to roll up the sleeve to create like a little cuff like this. And I said to my mum I could do that, but she preferred like a more classic hem. So yeah, I left it as just a classic hem and twin needle stitched at the bottom. My twin needle was misbehaving a little bit. I don't know why. So yeah, it took a bit of time to do the sleeves. Actually, I had to redo them a few times because something happened and it just wasn't liking maybe work with this fabric, I don't even know. But I got there eventually. So I was quite pleased to be able to make use out of that extra fabric. And I think my mum liked this t-shirt. I hadn't tried the Celanti on her before. So I kind of went with her measurements and just sewed it up without her knowing. Just I thought it'd be a nice surprise as an extra garment. And she seemed to like it too. So yeah, I was glad to be able to use up the extra fabric. And I think it makes quite a nice t-shirt. This print works quite well as a bottom or a top too. So yeah, that is the first thing I've been sewing. And it was nice to make those for my mum, and it's nice now to have those pattern pieces all adjusted for the Hudson pants. So if she ever does want me to make another pair of viscose jersey type kind of smart casual joggers for the summer, I'll be able to make them quite easily and not feel so anxious cutting the fabric next time around. And then the next thing that I've been sewing this week was a fairly quick project, but I actually really enjoyed it. I've been making some scrunchies for my daughter and one of her friends, so another project for somebody else. I've got something planned for myself next though too, so don't worry. So yeah, my daughter, I think I made her a scrunchie or two a very long time ago, but she hasn't really been interested in wearing them until recently, when they're having a sort of a little talent show type thing going on at school, and her friend wanted to wear matching scrunchies for their performance, one in pink and one in yellow, something to do with the Taylor Swift song. I'm not quite sure what, but yeah, I thought it'd be fun to be able to sew them up, and I had some little scraps of quilting cotton left over from a very long time ago in pink and yellow, so I thought there was just enough to make a couple of scrunchies for each of them. So because I hadn't made a scrunchie for so long, I couldn't really remember how you make them. I knew they were fairly straightforward, but I had a look on YouTube and I came across this video by Seamwork for making scrunchies where you sort of sew. It's really clever actually. I think when I made them before, you sew the long edge first and then you sort of overlap the short edge on top of each other, and it can look a little bit, the join can end up looking a little bit clunky, I guess, and not totally smooth. But this way of sewing the scrunchies up is somehow you kind of, it's almost like the burrito method, where you sort of sew the ends, the little short ends together first, and then you sort of sandwich part of the scrunchie inside itself, and then you sew the whole long end in a continuous loop on your sewing machine, just leaving a little gap, and then you sort of pull it out to the right side, and there's a teeny gap to sort of thread the elastic through and finish. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun actually. I really enjoyed sewing these scrunchies using this clever method, and I'll link the Seamwork video down below in case you try it. It was so fun, I kind of almost want to make more scrunchies now. So I did say to my daughter, you know, very happy to make you a few more. I've got quite a few scraps that can make cute scrunchies. But yeah, it was a really fun, fairly speedy thing to sew. Obviously I only needed really small amounts of elastic, so it was nice to use a few little odds and ends from my sort of sewing fabric scraps and my haberdashery too. And my daughter's actually worn the scrunchies to school today, but I did take a picture of her wearing hers. So I'll pop that up here, and then we made the exact same ones for her friend too. So yeah, I think they'll look very cute, both wearing them together. Yeah, I think the Seamwork video had 3 different size options for a scrunchie, which I also liked, a kind of sort of quite a full one, and then a medium size one, then quite a small, narrow scrunchie size. And I ended up making mine somewhere between the medium and the large, just based on what fabric length I had, and I had a little look at the width, and that just seemed about right. I can't remember the exact dimensions, but yeah, somewhere pretty much bang in between the medium and large were the scrunchies I made. So yeah, it was a really fun, speedy little project actually, and I really enjoyed that method. So I thought I'd share it in case you've got anyone in your life who wants some scrunchies. The magic loop method was definitely a lot of fun and does give a really nice finish to the scrunchie too. So yeah, I thought I'd mention that as well. And then in terms of sewing projects for myself, well, I'm definitely really keen on getting started on my Fabric Godmother Fleur blouse. I'm really looking forward to giving that pattern a go, and I'm hoping to get sewing on that one over the next few days. But also over the last few days, I've cut out another top that I'd like to sew up for myself. And this one I've cut out of some fabric I had left over after sewing up a dress earlier this year. So earlier this year, I sewed up my second version of the Dovestone dress by Izzo Sew Studio. It's such a pretty, strappy summer dress type pattern. I will pop up a picture of the version I made earlier this year, and I made it in this lovely red viscose fabric. And I originally got this fabric as like a remnant piece from my local fabric shop, so it's quite good value. And there was quite a lot of the fabric there in the remnant when I got it. And I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to use it for. So I turned it into my Dovestone dress, and I really love how that's turned out. I haven't worn it yet. I think I made it maybe in February, so it was far too cold to wear it then. And I've kind of got it earmarked for taking on holiday with me this summer and finally getting to enjoy wearing it then. But because I had got quite a lot of the fabric, I ended up with quite a decent amount left over after cutting out that dress. And I really wanted to turn it into something because it seemed a shame to waste it or have it just sitting around not being used when it was quite a decent piece still left over. So it's been sitting in my bedroom, in a box in my bedroom where I keep fabrics that I'd like to use in the more immediate future. I've got my fabric suitcase that mainly lives in the loft that has lots of different scraps in. But yeah, this fabric I've had in my room, so it's kind of reminding me it's there and that I should sew with it. So I got it out last week and had a look at it and thought, what would I be able to squeeze out of you? What would you look nice as? And I thought it would look lovely as a top of some sort, and there'll be enough for a top. And I pulled out 2 patterns that I thought might work quite nicely with this fabric. So I had 2 choices I had to decide between. The first one was this one here, the top from the Friday Pattern Co. Saguaro set. And they're both woven patterns, so perfect for a nice woven viscose fabric. So this one is, a popular pattern, obviously. It's got this dolman sleeve, this very deep V-neck, and this elastic channel that sort of sits under your bust, and you can add on an optional tie at the front to give a bit more modesty and pull in the neckline a bit, because it is quite a deep V at the front there. And I made this pattern in a viscose fabric before, and I think it looked really nice in a viscose fabric. So that was one of my options. And then my second option was a top that's a bit more simple, that I thought would just let the fabric sing on its own, because I guess there's a bit more going on with this top pattern. So my second option was another top pattern I really love. It was this one here, the cuff top by the Assembly line. And this cuff top has this boat neck, and then it's quite a sort of boxy straight fit. And then the main sort of feature, why it's called the cuff top obviously, is it's got these kind of large elasticated cuffs to it. And I've actually never made this pattern in a viscose. I've only really made it in sort of more crisper fabrics like cotton, lawns and that sort of thing. And I made it in a sort of baby cord as well, but never in a viscose. So I thought it'd be interesting to see how it does work in a viscose. I was hoping it would work. So I was kind of torn between these patterns, but in the end, I decided that I'd quite like to have a top that I could wear a different time of year to the strappy sundress. And I thought if I made this top here, it would be more summery, just because of the deep V and the sort of the fact that it doesn't kind of come fully down and cover your waist. And if I wore it in the winter, I'd probably have to put a top underneath it, which would make it maybe a little bit less like something I'd probably reach for. So I thought maybe I'll give the cuff top a try and just see how it works in a viscose fabric. And I thought it would really showcase the pretty print, because it's quite a simple pattern. And I thought it's more likely something I might wear in the winter with a pair of jeans. It might even work well as a top to wear out to dinner, right? Maybe just on its own without having to layer it up underneath, because I could always pop a cardigan on top if I needed with this one maybe. And it wouldn't be showing my midriff or anything. So that is the one I decided to go for in the end. I did think afterwards actually maybe this fabric could make a nice fleur blouse too. But no, I'm looking forward to trying out the cuff top in a viscose. And so far all I've done is cut out the pattern piece and I haven't started sewing yet. I'm making the straight size that I usually make, which is I think the extra small, which is pretty much bang on my measurement, so I've never needed to sort of grade or adjust that. The only changes I'm making to this pattern is, the first one is I've not cut 2 pattern pieces, so I'm not going to do this seam down the front. I thought with this print it would look much nicer just to have one piece at the front and one piece at the back, so I'm not going for that sort of feature centre seam at the front and back, which is quite easy. It just meant I had to remove the seam allowance from the pattern piece and then just cut that pattern piece on the fold. And then the only other change I'm making is the cuff top has a facing around the neckline, which I'm not a big fan of. I actually wore one of my cuff tops the other day and the facing did just get on my nerves a little bit. I just find sometimes they just don't sit exactly as I like, and I still love my tough cuff tops with a facing and it won't stop me wearing them. But I just do prefer the finish of a bias bound neckline. So instead of cutting out a facing out of this fabric, I've just cut some bias binding and I'm going to do the neckline with bias binding instead. And I think that'll give a nice finish. And I think on the viscose particularly, sometimes I find viscose the worst fabric to add a facing to, and I find if you do then clip in the inside a little bit, it can start to fray a bit, and I don't find it's as maybe as durable as a bias binding finish either. So yeah, that's another little change I'm going to make. So yeah, that is the plan. All the pattern pieces have just been sitting over there and they've got a bit crumpled, so I need to give them a good iron before I start sewing with them. But yeah, I'm looking forward to trying the cuff top in a viscose fabric, and I think this is a really pretty fabric. I love the red colour. I do quite like a red. I think it's a colour that suits me. I remember from when I had my colours done. And I think the print's really pretty with the little white and blacks in the flowers. So yeah, I'm hoping it'll work well. The one thing I'm not sure about is if the elastic will feel quite heavy on the sleeve, because it's quite a lightweight fabric, whether it'll feel like it'll weigh the sleeves down a bit more than when you're wearing like a crisp cotton. But I'm going to give it a go and just see how it turns out really. And yeah, it would just be nice to just turn this leftover fabric into something. I was pleased I had enough to turn it into a pretty top. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sewing that one as well as my fleur blouse. Those are sort of my immediate sewing plans at the moment. So the next thing that I wanted to update you on was some progress on my latest crochet project. So I'm currently working on a new crochet project using this pattern here, which is called Vest number 25, and it's by Daisy and Peace. And it's my second Daisy and Peace pattern I've tried, and I just thought it was super cute, this vest. You basically make it by crocheting lots of daisy granny squares, and then you sort of crochet them all together and then add on ribbing to turn into this really pretty vest. And I'm making mine in this sort of soft pink colour. I think it's called dusky pink maybe. And then I've gone for the classic daisies with the yellow centres and the white petals. And I think last week I shared that I'd crocheted all of the granny squares I needed. I think I had to crochet 40 of them. And I'd started sewing together all the granny squares to make the vest front and back. Or you sort of crochet them together actually rather than sewing. And you use this sort of lovely slip stitch that creates a really nice finish between the squares, I think. And I could have used sort of pink yarn to sort of make the stitching blend in a little bit more. But the pattern has it as a feature, this sort of grid, it kind of creates this grid. And I really like the look of that, so I wanted to replicate that. So I went for the white, like the pattern. And I really enjoyed actually slip stitching them all together. So I slip stitched the front together and the back together. And then what I did was I just sort of pinned them, this back and the front together down the sides and on the shoulder seams to just check the fit. And actually what the pattern does is you kind of make all the sort of standard sized squares, and then you add these little tiny squares at the top of the front and back pieces to create the little straps. But when I tried mine on with the little tiny squares at the top, it just didn't feel like it was sitting quite right on me. The back and front are identical, and I was just feeling like the front was coming up a bit too high, and I thought once I added the ribbing on as well, it would come up maybe a bit uncomfortably high, and I'm not a big fan of things too high on my neck, particularly like yarn and things. So I thought I need to have a little bit of a rethink about how the shape of the pattern is going to work for me. And actually I do remember on my first Daisy and Peace, I also made another vest by them. I do remember on that pattern altering it slightly to bring the front neckline down a little bit more, so it must just be my personal preference. So what I decided to do was I decided to omit the little tiny squares. This is the size of a tiny square. You can see it's a bit smaller than a full-size square. Just I think just the actual flowers are the same size, it's just the final row is done slightly differently. I think the big squares use a treble crochet and the little squares use maybe a single crochet. Anyway, I decided to get rid of them, and instead what I decided to do was just change the back and the front so they're slightly different to each other. So what I did for the back was I added an extra full row of large squares instead of just a tiny square on each side. And then at the front, I decided to add just one square each side and have this extra sort of dip here, which means the back neckline's a little bit higher and the front neckline's a little bit lower. And I'm hoping that is going to work better for me. When I tried it on, it just felt like a better shape on me. And also I think having the larger squares at the top just made the length just slightly longer, which I think I might need. Because when I did make the front originally, I did think, am I going to need to add an extra row because is this top going to be really cropped? I know it's not designed to be like a really long vest by any means, but I do have a longer body, so I often do need to lengthen things. But I decided I don't think I need to add another row, but just adding like a larger squares here rather than small ones did just bring it down the little extra length, which probably will make it that bit more comfortable for a length on me, hopefully. So that is where I've got to now, having made those little alterations around the neckline. So the next step I think is probably to maybe sew the seams on the shoulders and the sides, and then start figuring out how I do the neckline and the arms and everything. And I'm a bit nervous. I feel like this is where it gets a bit more tricky, because obviously with these all the bands, you kind of want them to be the right sort of tension, not to be too loose and not to be too tight. So yeah, there's a bit more judgment involved, whereas making the granny squares was kind of something I could do in front of the TV without having to think about it much, just really enjoy the process. So anyway, I'm glad to have had a bit of a alteration of the neckline. I'm hoping that'll work better for me. And yes, that's where I am now. So that's the next step of my project, to work on the ribbing and things. So I'll update you more in future videos. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. It's a nice challenge figuring how to sort of fit and alter crochet and knitted garments too, I think. It's a bit different to sewing, but obviously just like sewing, there's no point in me crocheting the whole thing up and then it not fitting well. So being able to think about the fit along the way is quite important, I guess. So yeah, I will let you know how I'm getting on, but I thought I'd just give you that little update on that project too. So that is everything that I've got to share in this video, I think. So it's been a bit of a mix, I guess, and I'll make sure to link all of the fabrics and patterns and yarn and everything that I've talked about down below. So thank you so much for joining me. Do let me know in the comments down below what you're working on at the moment. I'd love to hear from you. It's always really lovely to get your lovely comments. So thank you very much. And I'll look forward to seeing you for another video very soon. But in the meantime, I hope you have a really lovely week and thank you again for watching. Bye.